everybody. Hi, Warren.
Jasmin, how are you? My second favourite person.
Oh, who's your first?
Soa, my new bromance.
Fair call. Can't blame you there. Hi, everybody. Where's everybody tuning in from tonight? I always like to see where in Australia or the world we are. Well, welcome. Bris Vegas. We have some Bris Vegas. How's it over there? And in Sydney, Adelaide, excellent. Well, welcome to this evening. It's Tuesday, and Warren and I jump on, and I have a bunch of questions for you, Warren. I hope you're prepared tonight.
Oh dear, man! I was going to go. I was going to have a good nap, Jasmin, but I can't now.
Well, I don't know if anyone else here is in Perth, but the weather has gone a little bit crazy here today, this afternoon.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? It's like so stormy.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi's cut out a few times. So we've got Sylvia, who's in Victoria Jail. Oh, sorry about that, Sylvia. Okay, well, before we kick off, I just wanted to welcome everyone. We're talking tonight about, protection of our income and our assets, also all things unemployment and, not to state the obvious, but the Great Reset as well as something that people keep wanting to ask about, Warren. Now,
Yeah.
We're going to get into a few questions. If you do have questions tonight, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. If you just could not put them in the normal chat, because it does get a bit flooded and we need to be able to track the questions. So that would be much appreciated. Now, Warren, we have our up and coming event this weekend, the 23rd of October. It is all about income and wealth protection. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
The event, obviously we've heard about this Great Reset, and there's no question that if governments can shut the whole world down for a flu virus and just about every country gets on board, and you're living in a very over-bloated world economy with money being printed everywhere, inflation up as high as, in fact, I was saying 30%, and then the last webinar with Stephen Pettit, I was a little bit speechless. He was saying it's actually 300% in some parts with fuel. Wow. And 400% with lumber. Like it's going nuts, and it's starting to spread towards Australia. So one of the things that do need to sign when you're heading towards a major economic collapse is that money gets printed, prices start going through the roof. Last year I predicted that we would have a lot of shortages that would happen just because of the nature of the pandemic and the fact that supply chains were being shut down and things weren't actually doing. So the whole thing was basically, so basically we're definitely heading for some kind of financial reset of a kind. And there's no time like ever before, because generally the middle class and the standard people are going to be really caught by this. So, the event we're doing is just following on from our other events, but it's a one-day event which is purely on protecting your wealth. So it's what the wealthy doing, what are people like myself and Stephen done and others to really make sure that your wealth is secured. So we'll be covering things that I've actually been doing myself as well as for clients for years, things that, for example, how you can literally, if you're legally structured correctly, you get sued, they'll just won't bother going any further and will settle with you. Governments chasing you for taxes will back off and even let you walk away from your debt, And this is real stuff. This is stuff which I've done for myself, I've done for clients. I walked away legally from a 780 grand tax debt when I got in the business trouble 11 years ago, which I could never have done if it wasn't set up correctly. I saved my business from certain ruin from that. So, you'll be learning how to protect your wealth. You'll also be learning the kind of structures that work best. And, it's going to be an intense event that will be really giving you detailed content. So you better turn up ready for your head to be exploded a little bit, because I'll be speaking. I've got a guy from Singapore coming that I'm really pleased to have got him, who stores private gold bullion, silver, does crypto margin lending trading for high net worth European investors and Switzerland and people like that. So he'll be speaking about storing wealth offshore and how you can do it. I've got Stephen talking about family offices and ways that people are moving their money overseas, and I'll be starting off with the basic principles, and then in the afternoon covering a lot about these alternate ways of, mortgages over your properties, looking at liens, and just various ways you can secure your wealth, insolvency options if you get yourself into debt trouble, all that kind of stuff. So, it's going to be a good event, and I'm really excited to be running it.
Excellent. I'm excited to be there too. And just for those who are in Perth, if you are in Perth City and you still want to attend, we have a few seats left there that you can actually attend in person. But once again, just a reminder before we do get asked, everyone online and in person will get a replay after the edit. So you will get that directly sent to you with a login. So if you cannot be there for the live, please do go ahead and purchase. Our team will put the link in below. And go ahead, because you'll be doing yourself a favour as well as your family and friends to really protect yourself and your income and your hard-earned money and wealth. So, Warren, it's been a little bit of a crazy week. When I mentioned to you beforehand, you know, unemployment is really something that is becoming a lot more apparent today in Australia and around the world. I saw an article today that actually said millions of Australians will be soon resigning. It didn't even say why. It just said millions of Australians will be losing their jobs and resigning. So I think we have a pretty good, fair idea why that would be.
Yeah.
And generally they'll try to pretend it's something else. Like in America, there are people walking out of Netflix, etc., and they're pretending that it's over pay rise. But we know what's really happening. Okay.
Oh, well, you just got to go back to 1976 when they tried to mandate the swine flu vaccination. And I think within like 6 months, they were hastily backtracking. Like Delta Airlines have already backtracked and now removed their no jab, no job. I think a lot of countries in the world will reverse that relatively quickly when they see the economic impact, and they'll suddenly come out and say, oh, we've decided that the science shows we can do it, newest updated science, and we just want to give, you know, we want to be inclusive and give everyone a chance. And they'll break ranks because they'll see a chance to get access to unjabbed people and grow their business, and they'll get first crack at the cherry, and then others will jump in hastily. So Australia's in a bit more interesting position because people here are just, look, Australia is a convict colony first and foremost. We were formed that way. The Constitution says we're still Britain's bitch. You know, we're a monarchy that's owned by Britain. So by and large, Australians do tend to do what they're told. They're pushing back a little bit more, but still, I mean, I'm astounded. Well, not really astounded. I saw it coming, but it still just blows my mind how quickly and how easily people are buckling and taking it for financial reasons. Whereas I've been saying all along, if you hold your ground and hold out, yeah, I mean, it will start reversing in various forms, but it's just people can't really wait, you know, 1 month, let alone wait 6 to 12 months. And generally that's all I see. I see that a lot of things changing back again in due course. But, yeah, I mean, Australia, who knows? I mean, if people keep conforming and governments know they can do it, well, they'll probably keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I remember you saying a long time ago at the very start, you said this isn't because of the government. This is because of the people. I mean, you know, you can have a government doing great things and still people can go ahead and do stupid things. So unfortunately, really the onus comes back on us. So when we talk about unemployment, we talk about the fact that people are going to be losing their jobs. We've already had a bunch of nurses. I know that in healthcare, I've got personally family members who've also lost their jobs. You know, we did a weekend over on mindset and talking about how to keep yourself calm and centered in these times. It's quite difficult when you're actually in it to when you're trying to say it to people. So yeah, I just a little bit around that place. How are people meant to make these decisions knowing that if they don't even have a lot of assets possibly, or they're not too sure where to start? Where do they start, Warren? Because it's really getting a little bit overwhelming.
So you mean start in terms of decisions about what they do with their money, or decisions they make about work? What do you...
Decisions, if they're going to decide first and foremost they don't want to take this experimental jab.
Yeah.
Okay, first, so there's a lot of us, so there's a lot of them. And then secondly, if they don't want to, how are they going to then manage the next step? Because I can tell you now from someone who's been out in many organisations and seen what's happening out in Australia, we've got 50,000 letters we could give our employer. I haven't seen one that has actually worked as of yet.
No, I mean, it's not, it won't work in the short term. But look, one of the interesting things my uncle once said to me was he said that most people, there's always work. He said, but most people think certain work is beneath them. And this is the reality. Like, let's say, I mean, I have had all kinds of trouble getting a really good gardener, like all kinds of trouble. And I'm happy to pay really well for a good gardener, but I've had immense problems. I've had immense problems finding other kind of roles. And I think one of the problems with Australia, we're so used to being spoiled. Like my uncle, he spent years, working his ass off. When he went broke, he refused to go to Central. He went and did signs. He did all kinds of stuff in the background, lived very simply, went back to fishing. I can remember when I went broke for a while years ago, I just went back to basics. I remember when I was involved in the music team. I mean, I was involved often I had to learn sound equipment. I was regularly carrying stuff. I was carrying equipment. I was doing caddy work, like literally carrying that. I've worked in fast food restaurants. And in fact, even my sons and I the other day, they said to me straight away, they wouldn't hesitate to get a job in a coffee shop. They wouldn't even, and I even said sometimes I just want to go and work part-time in a coffee shop one day a week, just for half a day, just to remind myself. And even now I do a lot of practical tasks, like in our house, doing stuff which really just practically. So right now, like on this Awake Perth business group I'm in, there's work out there. People are wanting to get out there, put their creative brain back and say, what is it I really want to do if my sovereignty is valuable to me? Like for me, it's just not even a question. Like my sovereignty is so valuable. And I'm not just speaking theoretically, I've been in positions where 12 years ago, I was sitting at the other end of a man who had the power to bankrupt me and literally take everything from me. He said to me, if you don't sign this document, but I'm giving you, that's what I'm going to do to you. And I don't think I've ever been so scared. I was absolutely beside myself with fright. And I went away and said, give me some time to think about it. And after about 2 days, I just thought, I can't live with myself if I'm a coward. I'd rather lose everything. So I stood my ground with him and I was kind of waiting and he actually burst out laughing and he said pretty much, he kind of said, okay, fine. He goes, so what do you propose? So the whole thing was an illusion. He just said to me, what do you suggest we do then? Because he said, you owe me this money. I said, well, I can't give you stuff I don't have and I'm not going to sign these documents. He goes, okay, well, what do you suggest? So I gave him a proposal. He said, fine, I'll take it. And I was like, oh. And so I then paid him back in bits and drabs and then eventually came back to him for settlement agreement years later and he accepted it. So the point is that, yeah, if someone's coercing you, I was saying to one of my friends, it's like when I had coffee today, I said, most people, we sit there, we let ourselves be in an abusive relationship. We're scared to step away from something that doesn't work for us. We're scared to do all these simple little things in life. And then we wonder why we are fearful to walk away from our jobs. It's generally most people in this position, if you're honest with yourself and take a good look, you probably spent most of your life running from conflict and doing the easy thing, like staying in a job you'd rather not stay in, but you end up staying for a mortgage. You're afraid. You stay in a relationship because you just don't value yourself enough and think, well, who else would take me? And it's a great time to get self-empowered. That's how I see this and get back to basics. And there's so much work out there. Like I know so many people who've saying this to me, Jasmin, like people like, I need work. We need this. We need fruit pickers. There's so much work out there right now. And there's so many options to protect your debt. I mean, Australia is an amazingly blessed country. And the issue we've got is we really do live in a spoiled society where we've been taught you have the right to do whatever you want. You have the right to dress as a transgender and go and do Olympic sports. You've got a right to do anything you want. And, with rights and freedoms comes responsibilities. That's what I'm saying in a long-winded way. There's responsibilities to be sovereign. Yes, I'm sovereign, but I've worked hard for it. I have really worked hard for it. I paid a big price. I paid a big price with family, with business. I've had to work hard to build this, made numerous mistakes with staff, still making mistakes as we speak. So, yeah, I mean, sovereignty comes at a price and with responsibility.
Absolutely. Your passion was just really beautiful then, Warren. And, imagine if that time that you signed that document, you may be not where you are today because you made that decision for someone to bully you. So if you are someone who is out there in this situation, have a look at Warren as a great example to stick to your guns. You are absolutely worth it.
You're worth it. Like Kylie, for example, here said the issue is getting another job at double job stipulation. And, and again, there's plenty out there. I mean, I'm on the Awake Perth business group. There's people there everywhere. In our company, we've taken on staff recently. We don't expect people to get jabbed. I mean, there's people going on there offering to do cleaning. I know right now, for example, we're looking for someone just to come and do a major house spring clean for us and just do a few things like that. Can I find someone at the moment? No, because most people don't seem to want to do it. So there's plenty of work out there with non-jab people, number one. And number two, and contracting yourself out there online and all kinds of stuff. It's just getting creative. I know, and I'm talking from experience. I've gone creative when I had kids, I had debt, I had everything. And you just got to keep going and stick to your guns and just realize that, it's not an easy time for anyone. And there's certain decisions I'm having to make right now, which I'm not finding easy. But right now, life is anything but easy, and we just got to push through it. Because I can tell you now, there are people like some of my friends who are actually employing people right now.
Yeah. It looks like you've got a spring cleaner there.
Lol. Philip, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So please, everybody, just be creative and, stick to your guns. All right.
Absolutely.
So I have a question here. It was about house prices. I don't know if you saw it, but there's an article in regards to the most unaffordable cities in the world at the moment. And Sydney is number 3, actually. And I will tell you
Doesn't surprise me.
Their median house has risen by $300,000. That is taking a standard everyday home to $1.3 million.
30% rise in 9 months, yeah.
I mean, this is insane. This is insanity. I don't know the rest of Australia, but I would say it would probably be close.
Perth's 18%. Victoria's about 25%. I mean, Perth, they say 18%. I think it's more, but
yeah. So we've got unemployment happening. We've got people needing to be creative to create income. Then we've also got these increases in food, petrol, and buying homes. Possibly it's probably maybe not a very good time to get a loan right now. What does this actually mean for your everyday Aussie? Are we going to see a lot more bankruptcies? And if we do see a lot more bankruptcies, does that potentially mean that, we're going to have more people going on the dole? Or what do you see moving forward?
Yeah, look, it's just the time to be look, I'm seeing two lots of people, those who choose to be sovereign and those who go running to government and someone else. And that those who run to government and run to others, look, he who gives the money or she makes the rules. So when I pay people from our business, I make rules. Like when you work with us, Jasmin, we make rules and you got to follow them. If I work for someone, if I do a contract with a big company, I've got to follow their rules. And so when you get paid by government and rely on them, you've got to follow their rules. So if they come out at some stage and say, unless you're jabbed, you can't get your payment, when you rely on anyone else other than yourself or people or things you trust, you are vulnerable, and I'll give you an example. Big companies is an obvious one. I said a few years ago, anyone who works for a big company is going to be in a lot of trouble. I said this last year because they're going to mandate it for liability reasons and concerns, and they're still going to get caught up in it. That's the number one thing, that would actually happen. So big companies would mandate things. The other people that I think also is anyone who's in a licensed profession by government. That's the thing that I myself have been giving up all my licenses. And I remember a few years ago on an instinct, I gave up my accounting license. Vina, my business partner, she took it on and I just contracted back for her, but while still being an owner, and limited my exposure. And I couldn't believe the difference when I did it. It opened up all kinds of until then, it was almost miraculous. Every time I'd speak out and do webinars or stand up, suddenly I get an investigation from a government on something or something else. I had 5 investigations in 9 years, Jasmin. And as soon as I got rid of all my licenses, I got left alone. So that's the other thing too. If you're licensed this or licensed that, I'm sure that APRA, the health people, will mandate a jab for anyone who are licensed by them. And the clever buggers have got all these different governments and different professions like podiatrists, chiropractors, physios, massage to all go underneath them. So this is the age of the sovereign individual. Those who master and start the path of being sovereign are going to do a lot better. Yes, it's hard for now. I don't deny that. I'm not in any way seeking to be uncompassionate to people who are finding this scary. It's very scary, and you have my total empathy. And that's why I'm doing these webinars and we do these live streams because. And we know that the vast majority of people will probably never buy our events. Some will buy in, a lot will just listen and get help. And that's good. I don't mind. The more people we can help. I'd love it if there was 50,000 people in Australia listening to me right now speaking and getting some help with this. That's my way of giving back. I'm a problem fixer. If someone's sick in my family, I don't want to sit there going, oh, you poor baby, you're crying. I'm the one who goes, let's just get it fixed, and be practical. And I'm the same with this. Best way I can do is educate people, help from my experience as much as I can, people get empowered, and step up and find a way through it. And yes, it's hard. I don't deny this. It's really hard right now. But it's better off to do the hard things now than wait for 12 months and hope governments ease up, because somehow I think your hope's going to be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about, other rules or laws that government have put through, it's interesting that the Bikey Law actually came through this week. Did you have a look at that?
It's terrible, that law, isn't it? It actually says if you got a tattoo on you, like, you can be arrested.
And people actually think it's just for the bikies. Like, my instinct is like, hang on a second, this isn't just for the bikies. This doesn't make sense. You're not allowed to have your patches. You're not allowed tattoos. Depends who you associate with. Do you think there's a little bit of a bigger picture here to this actual law being passed? Because this is one of the harshest in the world in Western Australia.
Well, normally I'd say yes. I mean, except the main guy who's pushed this is John Quigley, our Attorney General, and it's well known that Quigley's a good guy. Like, he's actually a really good guy. He's done a lot of good, and people who I know behind the scenes who know Quigley. And he was a big factor that cleaned up our environment over here, who, protected our heritage. And one of my friends who lives up north was telling me that when they had major problems with some stuff and they went to him as a local MP, she said the first time he listened to her and really lobbied to get help for her. So overall, Quigley's not a bad guy. So, yeah, I think there's partly that. I just think they're on this crusade. I think that one of the issues that's happening with them is, my guess is with Quigley and Mark McGowan, they've just decided to clean up the state, clean up crime, and have gone like gangbusters. And sometimes in cleaning up crime, you think, great, we'll crack down on the bikies. Well, bikies aren't the only people that do crime. So, yeah, there's probably a sinister agenda in there, I'm sure. I also think it could just be a little bit as simple as, I just think that it's a bit like in New York of September 11, they went insane and they had a zero tolerance in New York for a period where Giuliani is the mayor. If you even were caught jaywalking, you got huge fines for a time. It just went over the top. So that's, that law blew my mind. But in saying that, understand WA has had some horrendous laws in this area for a while that people just don't know about. Well, I remember 8 years ago when I was a lawyer still representing a client, and I read the Hoon legislation and I was absolutely astonished. And I actually rang the police about this. I said, you can't seriously be enforcing this law, because what happened was that my client, their car, they let a friend borrow the car. The guy was speeding over 30 k's over the limit, so they impounded the car. Oh. And I said, well, they lent it this, and under the law strictly, they can impound the car, and even if the person driving it didn't own it, the owner will get their car impounded and has got to pay a fortune after 28 days to get it pulled out. And I said, this is the most stupid law I've ever seen in my life. And the policeman said, I actually agree with you. They said, unfortunately, this is what legislation says. And they said, I'm sorry. I said, I actually agree with you, just so you know, Mr. Black. I think, and so we've got this kind of absurd laws going on for a while. And I just hope through all of this, people get so much more aware, we see more pushback and laws get cleaned up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sorry, the other one, Jasmin, is confiscation. I don't know if it's still this way in WA, but at one stage, let's just say that you got your house, okay? Let's say you own a house in Wembley and you let your friend stay with you, and your friend starts growing cannabis on your property without you knowing, and they find that there, they can actually confiscate your house under the forfeiture of crime legislation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so if you don't like it, you know what to do. That's wow. Okay, that's horrendous. Just remind everyone, if you do have questions, put it in the Q&A box. I have a few here as well we got earlier. Now, this is your favourite one. I know, Warren, so prepare yourself. I'm going to hit you with it. The digital identity. So everyone's been talking about it this week. There's this massive campaign to go around, write your thoughts to the government. You might got to upload this document about these digital identity. So basically be for, shopping, your Medicare, everything like that. It goes all digital. So if you go to Woolworths, Coles, they're proposing you pay with a QR code. What are your thoughts here? Because many people are really starting to freak out, but I don't know if a lot of writing into the government's really going to change things. So I'd really like to hear your thoughts.
Well, has writing into the government helped on anything yet?
No.
No. So this is the problem when you're living in a mafia cartel situation. It's just, yeah, I mean, you've just got to have enough critical mass and pushback. And I mean, like, let's say the next election that people really stood up and actually voted and got in the minor parties to own enough seats that the major governments lost control of the Senate and lost control of the House of Reps. If that could happen, these things can be stopped, and they can prevent these things getting through. And that's what I'm really seeing as critical right now. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not saying you don't push back and argue about this kind of stuff, but yeah, the biggest problem right now is that majority of people just passively accepting it. But yeah, this thing is potential for all kinds of abuse. I agree with you. And it's making...
Sorry. You keep going and I'll ask after.
Yeah, so I was going to say is that, yeah, so this is why I'm really more and more opting out of the situation as best as I can, like getting cryptos, getting more private as much as I can, setting up different things and stuff like that. Yeah, look, I mean, that digital identity is just like anything else. It's just another way of governments seeking to bring some kind of limitation, some kind of control. Do I think it will go as extreme as everyone's saying, like, but they will suddenly not let you access your bank account? Not in the near future. If they do that, I really would throw my hands up in the air. I wouldn't know what to say. But I'd be very surprised if they went that extreme, where they said you can't access bank accounts. But who knows? I'd say it's more likely that will be used, like you're saying, for like Medicare, getting people set up and getting everyone ready for, kind of pushing vaccinations harder, or eventually more. I think vaccinations is just a red herring myself. I think that eventually that will calm down. But in the meantime, they'll be moving towards nanochips, transhumanism, that kind of stuff, all the crazy conspiracy theories, which are anything but theories, but are showing themselves to be well and truly fact right now. My own conspiracy theories, like when people say, are you a conspiracy theorist? I'll say, I'm probably bigger so than anyone. I'm probably more than all of you put together. I think there's far many more things I think that's going on I don't even share. I think there's horrifically sinister agendas going on here right now. But this is why the best solution is to get yourself sovereign financially, spiritually, health-wise, everything. I mean, I'm completely independent now from the health system. I've got my own ways of doing my health. I've got myself independent from just about anything and everything because, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind in the short term we've got some problems. And I think eventually they're gaining for everyone's money too. So that's why getting your wealth protected and getting set up in different places is really important right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say before. I think this whole COVID and this vaccine thing is really, like we said, a red herring. It's just a smoke screen to really bombard everybody, because if you have a look to the left, the right, there are so many things constantly changing. There are so many petitions going around. Even, there are so many worries. There's so many changes in legislation and acts. And I mean, we've got premiers coming out. I don't know if you saw Dan Andrews yesterday. He literally had just said that nothing is going to change for the unvaccinated minimum by April. And then even then, we've got more booster shots to come. I mean, there can't be any more obvious. So it's really clearly the power lies within us. And I also wanted to stipulate that I think it's a really important time now to not shop at Woolworths or Coles, all these big corporations. Go and support your small stores and your local farmers.
Yeah,
I
do that myself.
I mean, for people to complain that there's a QR code, stop giving your power there. Stop shopping there. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
No, I agree. I mean, like Dan Andrews, for example. Big contrast between him and, say, the New South Wales new premier, because the New South Wales new premier, Dom Perrottet, made it clear in no uncertain terms a month ago he was a dissenting voice. He actually argued not to give any restrictions on unvaccinated people at all, different to vaccinated. But in the end, when he became premier, they kind of met halfway. So that's why he said he'll lift him in December. And I think he probably will. I think you can see he doesn't believe in a minute in restricting unvaccinated people. He's made that very clear. Whereas I think Dan Andrews is a union thug, and at heart. And so as a union thug, he will use whatever extortion, coercion to get people over the line. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, in Perth today, I know someone who saw a psychologist. The psychologist has already been forewarned that the unvaccinated won't be welcome there soon, very soon. So, you know, it is a really important time right now to what Warren said, you know.
Well, yeah, it won't last, like I said, indefinitely, because many of these places will go, oh, shit, you know, they'll start losing customers and losing money. So it'll reverse again. You just got to get more sovereign. I mean, that's why I've got myself as sovereign I could be. I built myself a very awake community of people. Like most of my health people are very awake people. And yeah, that's all you can really do right now. Sometimes when evil comes to power, you've just got to go defensive and protective for a time.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. I've got two questions up here. So Warren, you said you are employing people, but how can your employees be sovereign if they're taking a paycheck? Are these the middle class that Steve referred to in your previous webinar? This is something I'm struggling with at the moment. I want to be sovereign, but I do not want to be an employee again.
Yeah, well, look, basically the reality is the only way to not be, you know, if I employ people or bring people on with me, yeah, obviously that if they come on with me, they're under our business and that. Now, we try and give people as much sovereignty we can within a role. That's why we encourage contractors and that, because I like people to be sovereign as best as they can. And my rule is if people do work for us, we look after them very well, because number one is a win-win for us and for them. If we treat people well, they stay with us, because staff turnover is very expensive. Like they reckon it's some insane statistic that losing staff turnover, the cost of your company. So we don't get hardly anyone leave, because we just make sure we treat people like God, you know, but then we say you got to treat us like God too, which means you treat us really well, you follow our rules. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes the transition can just be getting work in employment or contracting capacity with someone who's really honourable, who's ethical, who's awake, and they'll treat you well and give you the opportunity to grow your wealth. And that's how I'm at the transition from a pure employee, where I got some work with a very, very evolved business owner who was very encouraging of my sovereignty, and he gave me a lot of freedom. And he just said to me, all I care about is a result. He said, if you can get me the result in 3 days, you don't need to work 3 days. He said, I don't care. That was his attitude. And so I was doing in 3 days what all the other employees are doing in five days and more. So I was able to do that and then start working on my business in the background. So that's my answer to that. Yeah, obviously, if someone's paying you, you know, you're going to be to some degree under that person, but that's why you choose to who you work with, to people who encourage your sovereignty. So Philip says, would it be wise for people to have more than the usual available in cash towards expenses for the next 6 to 12 months? Yeah, well, I'm certainly keeping, you know, I think let's just say I've got plenty of strategies to that effect to take care of myself. So yeah, let's just say that's wise, Philip. That's very wise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's time to make some wise moves. Yeah, look, well, we did say we were going to wrap this up a bit earlier tonight. I think we're doing another webinar. Just a reminder to everybody that the weekend on the 23rd is one-day event. The link will be below. Please come along, whether it be online or in person, because you're going to have to learn how to protect your income and your wealth. Exactly what Warren and I have been discussing tonight. It's just building your wealth foundation on a rock. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the support email. Yeah,
I'd really encourage you to come to that event, because like I said, we deliberately made that ridiculously affordable, because we want to make sure that, you know, that we give really, really great value and help people right now. And so, yeah, so just type a Y if you're coming. And if you're not coming but plan to now, just type coming, just so we get a bit of an idea. So just type Y or type coming. Yep. Nadine's coming already. Yep. Awesome. Andrea, great.
Chris spoke with you yesterday, and Melanie.
Yep. So Andrea's going to sign up. Great. Awesome. Yeah. So really encourage people to do that. Okay. Wow. A lot of people are already coming.
Yep.
Either it's what we're teaching, or it's my sexy looks. I don't know, Jasmine. Hopefully both.
Look, I will say both, because you are my boss.
Nadine, you're my friend. Nadine, you got free consults for the rest of your life after that.
It's just look at that, all the love for you.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, we'll definitely wrap up. Don't forget as well, have you got your normal webinar tomorrow, Warren, at 5:30?
Yes. Tomorrow I'm just going to be sharing for about an hour as normal about the asset protection, and or more about tomorrow, the economy, what's going on, where we see things going from here. You know, melt up, melt down, that kind of stuff. So Yes. Aiden says, Greece, I love it. Look, flattery will get you everywhere, people. You know, flattery will get you everywhere.
Just keep going if you want a free ticket maybe or something. I don't know.
Well, thank you, everyone, for coming, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you got some value tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Warren, and thanks, everybody, for coming. We'll see you next week and see you at the event. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
To kick the habit that my mind is breathing in.